Okay, so we begin. We're in the middle of 72 in Daas Tevunos, right? Kind of in the middle of this long paragraph. So the last thing we talked about was how the neshama's primary function is to purify the body, right? Right. So we're talking about that the neshama has this incredible, high, lofty source, right? That it's already kind of like has a sense of perfection, and then it's perfect and it relates to Hashem and it's infinite, and the nature of infinity is to remove any imperfection and to complete anything that's incomplete. And so the nature of the neshama is to uplift the body, right? And then we were the last thing we saw was the question was, okay, so we see that the body gets perfected through the neshama. Then what's the point of the neshama being such a lofty madrega, right? If it doesn't seem like it will benefit anymore, meaning the body gets benefit because it gets purified, and then as a result, it's able to enter Olam Haba and then enjoy eternal bliss in Olam Haba. The neshama seems to be perfect to begin with, and it remains perfect to begin with. So what's the connection there? And that connection, what's the intention there? Fine. So then he says, okay, we're going to get back to that later. And then he says, this idea that the neshama is purifying the body. Good. And then we saw this idea that the neshama, and again, this, he doesn't say this, speaks this out, but we spoke some of it out. Is that the world is created chaser, right? The neshama is chaser, the neshama is lacking, and sorry, not the neshama, the body is lacking, and the neshama is able to perfect that lack, and it perfects that lack as an expression of God's oneness, right? Because God's oneness is kind of that quality that is at the same time perfect, but at the same time allows for a sense of imperfection, a temporary imperfection. So therefore the neshama accomplishes, what the neshama is accomplishing is it's accomplishing the removal of imperfection by what? By how? By expressing God's covered or infinity, right? God's overwhelming and kedusha. So the neshama is accomplishing the perfection of the body as by allowing Hashem's oneness, so to speak, to fully reveal itself, and as a result, it earns its own reward in Olam Haba, because as he says over here, that ken yosalot loy, that mida keneget mida, for the nachas ruach that the neshama causes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mida keneget mida receives the same nachas ruach in the future, right? The same reward that it accomplishes, right? By expressing God's kavod in this world, it mida keneget mida earns or its own kavod in the future. Okay, fine. Then he said, however, that was the initial process. But then we're back to this Ched Adam Rishon. So let's probably just begin right from that point. Okay? So Ached Goyrim. That's what we have to. Now, the sin caused Chet Shel Adam Rishon. La'avar Koisa Misa Kol Abruim. That as a result of the sin, the first has to be the process of death on all creations. And there is no hope, meaning there's no way out. So therefore, the soul is prevented from accomplishing this purification before this process called death. Right? So now, in other words, so it's it's not just it's not that death is just a cutoff point for what the neshama is able to do to accomplish its job. It's more than that. It's that the death is the removal of the essential function of the neshama. The whole point of the neshama is to purify the body and to uplift it into a state of perfection. It is not able to accomplish that. The whole thing that it's supposed to do, it cannot do. Okay? So, and so even the tzaddikim, the purest of tzaddikim, they still have to go through this concept called death. They're not able to perfect themselves despite all of their numerous deeds without this process called Misa. Right? So Misa, then according to this, Misa is what? Right? The way he reads this again, maybe I'm reading into it. They are not able to perfect themselves, even despite their many deeds, without this, without death. Right? So then death becomes a process, a part of the process of perfection. Right? Death is not necessarily, it is an imperfection, right? But yet, death also then becomes a tool in assisting the perfection process. Well, he's going to explain it in a second, I think. Right? Because death allows him to return, the body to return to the dust of the earth. And as a result of that, the zuama, right? How do you translate zuama? I don't have it, but the infection, let's call it, right? What does it say? Contamination. The contamination. Okay, good. The contamination is that the nachash injected into Chava is removed legamri, completely, right? So death and burial is the process. So now it comes out to the thing that the neshama is not able to do is to remove this evil that is embedded into the physical body, right? Despite all of the perfection of the neshama, and despite all of the positive actions that we do, it still is not able to separate, right? What is the word? To dissect the body to such a degree that as to remove that contamination that the nachash placed, the sin of the nachash, right? That sin through the nachash placed. So therefore, the only way to remove it is actually to completely decompose and to rebuild from scratch. Then, when it returns and is rebuilt, when the body is returned, right, and rebuilt, and then neshama then enters with all of her strength of the good deeds. This is also enabled by all the extra light received from the Gan Eden, right? The lofty light that received in the Gan Eden, I guess, in what I think he means, Olam and Neshamis, right? And it lights up in the body a great light. And then it is able to completely perfect itself. And then it's completely cured from all of the evils that it was that were built in. He was vulnerable to them originally. Okay. So again, some of these ideas we already discussed in Derech Hashem, right? But okay, the Ian Zen is parish with Medrash Chanel, so far so good, right? So okay, fine. Vein is in Spanish from Medrash Chanel, Parshas Vayera, Mezelo Shanel, Omar Rabbi Levi. Haneshama Boyd Malasa and Mizonis Bar Shel Maila, and the neshama, while it's in a state of Mailosa, in a state of its greatness, Mizonis Bar Shel Maila, it is nourished, fed from the light above. So this is speaking about what is this neshama ba'oidim malos, and neshama when it's in oilam and neshamas, right? When it's left to itself, and it receives its extra energy from up above. Umislabeshes boy, and it clothed in it. And then when it comes back to return into the body in the future, with that light itself, it enters. Right? So in other words, it's uplifted to a greater degree, and then it comes back with that light. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it says ma'ayil, so it's interesting. HaKadosh Baruch Hu uplifts the body. How? By putting it under the ground. Ad de misrakev kule, until it completely decomposes itself. V'nafka minei kol zuma bisha, and all of the contamination is removed from it. Right? So he's showing you two rayas that are supporting his idea. One regarding the neshama, that in the olam neshama it reaches a higher madrega, and one is for the body that it also reaches a higher madrega by going through the process of decomposition. Okay. So now that we got this full picture, and this is again, I don't want to go over and repeat itself, but we said last time, right? This was the plan of how he was presenting his structure of the book, is that inyan avodas ha'odam v'inyan kibbutz chara, right? There were these two time periods. There was the time of avodas ha'odam, of the time of the service of man, v'inyan kibbutz chara, and then there was a time of receiving the reward. Hem shtei hazmanim hakoylim kol mitzius. So these are the two times that include all of his existence. Okay? Right now, in this world, the body is gas, it's vulgar, thick, right? And it's dark, and it's full of lackings, full of limitations, right? And shortcomings. And the neshama strengthens over the body with light and kedusha, to purify it, ulzahira, into illuminate it. Again, I don't know if there's anything, if I'm just picking, this is just poetry, right? It's just, right? There's two things. Well, it's really three things, but I'm not sure. But anyways, the body is called gas, right? Gas means, again, I don't know, how do they translate gas? Coarse. Okay, coarse is a good word, right? It's coarse, v'choshuch, and it's dark, right? And then what does the neshama do? It gives it illumination, v'hakdusha, and holiness. So let's match up these two to the previous two, right? So I would match up choshuch, dark, to light, right? And kedusha to right, is the opposite of coarseness, right? So again, he switches them around, right? In the beginning, the body is gas, right, coarse and dark, and the neshama is light and holy. So they don't.
And then he continues in order to make it pure and radiant.
Right.
Again, pure.
Right. It switches back to pure. Pure seems to purify the coarseness, and radiant is the light. Right. So again, am I over picking it? Just because he just writing it as to make it more just flowy. I don't know what it is, or there's precision here that needs to be, delved into. I don't know. Okay. Fine. Okay, so then when this purification is complete, right, in other words, after Tchias HaMeisim, Huzman Kabbalas Aschar, that's when the reward is, the time for the reward happens. Ki yachdav yiyu, then they will be together, meaning the body and the neshama, lekabel schar tov kol hayomim, to receive good reward all of the days. Okay. Right? So far, so good. Okay, fine, let's keep going. Now, what we need to understand is the measurement, right? The shear, the level, I guess, of the power of the neshama that when it is placed into this body. V'zeh, and that meaning ki im haya koicha rav, because if its power was strong, was huge, v'oira gadol ma'oid, and its light was very great, v'adei hoisin hasenas ha'oira gadol kol kach leguf shehaya mis'alav mitziyusay, then it would instantly purify the body to such a degree that it would go up instantly, right? And all of its shortcomings would be perfected instantly. And the Yetzer Hara is the essential of these shortcomings, not shortcomings, but of these limitations, or inefficient, whatever. What's the word I'm looking for? Not inefficiencies, but
deficiencies.
Deficiencies. Yes, thank you. I don't know what's happening. Okay, is the right? So Yetzer Hara is the main deficient of the deficiencies. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu desired in order to allow Bechira and V'schar Ba'oinish, right? And then so free choice, which results in the ability of reward and punishment. Right? So Hine Lo Hoya Shoylid Ba'odem Klal. So that's the point. Since the main chisaron, this main deficiency is not so much, according, we'll have to think about that for a second, but the main deficiency is Yetzer Hara, which is not really a deficiency, it's only a, what's the word? Is a pull towards deficiency, right? Is the ability to have deficiency, right? So if the neshama is so great and bright that gives the person this illumination, right? Then that he has, so he sees the world through the eyes of the neshama, so to speak, then that deficiency doesn't exist. He has no pull towards the Yetzer Hara because he has the pull of the neshama is too great. Okay, so that's what he's saying here, right? That's what he's saying. He's saying that if the neshama would have been so great, right? We're discussing the level, the measure of the neshama that was as it was placed into the body. If it would have been expressed too much, then it wouldn't have no room for Yetzer Hara to be expressed, right? Now again, if you would have asked me, I would have said no. The deficiency of humankind is not just the Yetzer Hara. It's just we also are made in a very limited core, like you said, coarse fashion. We're not just pulled towards coarseness, we are made coarse. And we're supposed to elevate the coarseness. So in that sense, if the only elevation that this high level of neshama, or this more expressed neshama provide is just clarity, then I don't know if that would necessarily solve. I mean, whatever. Maybe I'm just picking on it. Maybe he's saying at the end of the day, the major factor that we need to accomplish is to allow the bechira to happen. And if no bechira, there's no bechira. Obviously, he also understands that yes, a person would also be on a lower level. But once there would be no bechira, then it would meaning it would be easy for him to do the right thing and be uplifted. But then technically it wouldn't be really called uplifting, because if you're doing something not out of bechira but out of, whatever it is, built-in programming, so then it's not an elevation because you're doing it out of your own programming. Okay, fine. So so the Yetzer Hara would have no shlita over, no dominion over the person, just like it has no dominion over malachim, because of their illumination and their kind of complete knowledge, or the perfection of their knowledge, and their importance. Right? So it seems like he's saying Malachim have no Yetzer Hara as a result of three things, right? Ha'ara, light, Shleimus Yidiyah, right? A more perfect knowledge, and Chashivus, and but what's Chashivus got to do with anything?
Yeah.
Just because you're Chashav, therefore
Heaven is in order.
Right.
Here I didn't translate Hashivas as grandeur.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's, I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, if grandeur means another way of, I'm assuming grandeur is just another way of expressing being closer to Hashem, but that's already built in with more light and more knowledge. So that's the grandeur, the fact that you have more light and more knowledge. What is this third element of grandeur that's separate? So I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay, so I'm not sure. Okay, Teidiloch, right? So Teidiloch Sharei Leosid Lovei Nemar, because you should not realize that in the future it says Lo Yeirov Lo Yashchisu B'chol Harkochi. They will not do evil and they will not destroy in all of my holy mountain. Kimola Haaretz Deya, because the earth will be filled with knowledge. Right? So we see that in the future, when knowledge is revealed, there is no more sin. And then regarding that time, it also says, then I will remove the leva evan, the stone heart, from your flesh, etc. Right? So and then replace it with a new heart. And this is regarding the great level of the neshama that will be fully expressed in that time. Okay, now 1 second. What does the pasuk say? Did they tell you to bring the full pasuk by you or no?
No, that says you have
in the notes. Is there a full pasuk?
No.
No? Okay, so let me just quickly get the Tanakh. Okay, let's see. What do we got? Yechezkel
36:26.
Where is it? Yechezkel. Where is it? 36:26. Okay. Okay, 36:26. Not in mine. Not in mine. Oh, 36:26. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so let's see what it says here. So it says, I'm going to just start from the pasuk before. V'zarakti aleichem mayim tahirim, and I will sprinkle upon you holy waters. Utahartem, and I will purify you. Mikol tumeisechem, from all of your tumah. Umikol gilulechem atayireschem, and from all of your influences, I will purify you. V'nasati lechem leiv chadash, and I will give you a new heart. V'ruach chadasha, and a new spirit. Eten bekirbechem, I will give in your midst. V'asiroisias leva evan mipsarchem, and I will remove the stone heart from your flesh. V'nasati lechem leiv basar, and I will give you instead a heart of flesh. V'esruchi eten bekirbechem, this is the next pasuk, and my spirit I will place amongst you. V'sisi es asher b'chukai teleichu mishpatai tishmeru v'sisem, and I will make it so that you will follow my decrees and guard my ordinances and fulfill them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what is the pasuk saying?
First I'll purify, then I will improve the composition.
Okay, and I find this. What am I finding strange here? I'm finding right. So he's bringing this pasuk as a proof that what? That in the state of a fully expressed neshama, the body is not able to do anything wrong, right? Correct? Very strange. I mean, this pasuk fits well with what he's saying, but it fits well with what he's saying in what he was saying before. That in the future, when the neshama enters the body, it does this purification process. You see what I'm saying? I'm not really. Meaning, I don't know. Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know why I'm finding this hard, because I mean, he already brought such. If I remember correctly, right? It brought pasuk from Koheles before. Pasuk says Yom Shein B'Hem Chayfetz, right? Remember that? Does anyone remember that? I think he brought this from Koheles, that there will be days. Right? The literal meaning of Koheles is that there will be days Shein B'Hem Chayfetz, that you have no desire. Meaning he talks about old age, when a person in old age doesn't desire old age. But the Medrash learns that that there is no desire, meaning there is no free choice, there's no will to do one way or another. Because and it's talking about the days of Mashiach, that there is no free choice because everything is clear, right? So, right, so that's in the days of Mashiach. That's not in the days of Tchias HaMeisim, right? In the days of Tchias HaMeisim, that's a whole different story. That's what he. So this pasuk again, what I read to you just now, does that sound more like the day? That's what he should be saying now. That in the days of Mashiach, I don't know. Does the neshama? Let me ask you a question. Does the neshama have any more expression in the days of Mashiach?
Any more
than now? Or based on what he was saying until now, is that until Misa, there's nothing doing. But yet the Gemara seems to be saying that even by the days of Mashiach, technically there is no more Bechira, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is revealing himself. So what his thesis over here is that if the neshama would have been so great, there would be no bechira, because there would be illumination and knowledge, and you'll be like malachim, and there'll be no bechira. As an example to that, he says that le'osid lovoi, when le'osid lovoi, in the future. When is this future that he's referring to? Is he referring to the future of Yemais Mashiach, or is he talking about the future of post Tchias HaMeisim? Right? Because as far as I understand, Mashiach is still before Tchias HaMeisim, is still this life, and then Tchias HaMeisim is Olam Haba, next life, right? So when he's talking about L'Osid Lovei, is he referring to this life, just the better version of this life, or is he talking about post this life? So at first glance, because he never mentioned days of Mashiach yet, or he didn't say anything about days of Mashiach, so l'chayra he means post Tchias HaMeisim, right? And that's really the pasuk. If you read the pasuk simply, let's see again. I'm reading to what was the pasuk saying. Well, if I start from where I read to, I'll come back in a second. The pasuk, if I start from 25, v'zarakti aleichem ma'im tahirim, I'll sprinkle upon you pure waters with the hartem, and you'll be purified from all of your imperfections. Tuma. I'll purify you from all of these contamination, your idols. And I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit. So that sounds like, right? If I give you a new heart, a new spirit, that fits well with Tchias HaMeisim, seemingly, right? And he'll remove your stone heart from your flesh, and I'll give you a heart of flesh. whatever that means. I don't know what leiv. Okay. Ve'esruchi again. Ve'esruchi atem b'kerbechem. My spirit I will give in your midst. Ve'sisi, and I will make it so es asher b'chukai telechu, that you will follow my chukim u'mishpotai tishmeru v'asisam. Right. But let me read to you a pasuk before that, 24. V'lokachti eschem min hagoyim, and I will take you from all the nations. V'kibatti eschem mikol haaretz, and I will gather you from all the lands. Ve'avesi eschem lad maschem, and I will bring you to your land. So then, that sounds like Mashiach.
Yeah.
So, again, so if it sounds like Mashiach, then what is he bringing me proof? Meaning, if his whole proof is that the neshama, if it's too lofty, it will prevent the Yetzer Hara from functioning.
Yeah.
Then how do you see that from this pasuk? Meaning the pasuk does say that you will follow my ways, but it's not because of the neshama being lofty. It's just because God's openness, right? So it's because of God's openness. It refers to God's openness as a new spirit, but that could be just because God revealed himself. So now we technically have a new spirit. So I don't know, maybe are these the same thing? I just don't understand just the formula, what are the variables here and how to put them together. Okay, that's it. That's what I'm saying. So okay, so that's it. I don't fully.
Here,
I don't understand.
Here, they seem to imply that this is inspecting the soul and body relationship in this world and the next world, meaning up to the Yisraelis.
On which point is he saying? On which words?
In the beginning of this paragraph, to understand the level and of the power of the neshama, and
so then
they could exist outside of the body.
So then they're understanding that these words in the pasuk are referring to post Tchias HaMesim.
I think so.
Which is, that's what it reads simply, but then how do you connect it to what the pasuk is saying? Right?
Yeah.
So
had we not looked in the pasuk, would have been
right. Well, it wouldn't misuse. Well, again, even it's strange. The reason why I really looked at the pasuk is because why is he focusing? The only part from the pasuk that he quoted is the removal of the stone heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I mean, if you ask me which pasuk, which phrase he should have quoted from the pasuk, he should have quoted "V'ruach chadosha atem b'kerbechem." I will give a new spirit amongst you, right? Mm-hmm. And then he should have said "Vasirois Yesleva Evan," and then etc. Right? He left out kind of the key words. The spirit, the new spirit that I will give you, meaning because his whole argument is that the neshama is too high, it changes the way the body, right? Mm-hmm. But he doesn't speak about the so to speak the spiritual part or the ruach part. He talks about the removal of leiv ha'evan, right? So
I mean, it's could be spiritual.
What? I'm sorry.
It could be also spiritual.
It could be. I mean, just right. So initially, I was bothered. Why wouldn't he bring that particular phrase as opposed to just the two words right before that?
You know, like it was in Mitzrayim, he hardened heart of Pharaoh. He didn't harden his heart. It's a spiritual state of mind.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But if his point is the reason why the heart changes is because the neshama is so high, so bring out those words that the neshama is high, and as a result it changes.
Yeah.
But he just kind of just talks about the removal of the heart without explaining what causes the removal of the heart.
So maybe the Mashiach, once everything clear. So
So again, so why didn't he just speak those words out? That's my question.
So maybe what's throwing him off is the fact that the two words before the new heart, the new spirit. It's the same neshama that he's trying to say that it just.
Maybe he's
just the opposite. He's saying in the future when the neshama is in its full blast, then the body has no ability to sin.
Maybe he's trying to put you in a place like, when Mashiach comes, now everything clear, now I understood. No, you didn't understand. Like I did it. It wasn't not you came to realization. I'm the one who did it.
Yes, but again, as Mashiach comes, is the neshama different?
Neshama, no, it's neshama.
Right, so then it doesn't fit his thesis, because his thesis is that if the neshama is different, then the body doesn't have the ability to sin. But the neshama is the same, and you can still have a situation where the body doesn't have the ability to sin because of the revelations that come at the time of Mashiach. Right? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So that's why the math just doesn't work out for me. So meaning not that the math. I'm saying the math. If he would have just said, if he wouldn't have brought this raya, teidiloch, here's a raya to you because in the future the neshama will be revealed and the body won't sin. I have no problem with that. Meaning, if he wouldn't have, I didn't need that part. I understand the cheshbon, that if you would have been al-kamalach, you wouldn't be able to sin. I get the cheshbon. I didn't need him to prove for me, and you see that in the future, when the soul is fully expressed, the body can't sin, and he brings a raya from the future that's where the soul is not expressed, where it's just days of Mashiach. Right? Why is he, that's the thing, just doesn't fit the flow, doesn't seem to just work out. So I don't know. Okay, moving on. Avala inyan hu. So the idea is, I didn't finish reading that whole paragraph. Amna mitzad acher. So from now, that's if the neshama would have been lofty. But amna mitzad acher. From another perspective, he named hoisa neshama mitziyusay ha'atzmi shveilom. If the neshama in its essential existence, initial built core existence, ha'atzmi shveila would have been lower level, v'loy gedoyle, and not so great. It would not be able to then achieve that greatness asher yasa loy losid lobai that will be then in the future given to her. To be greater than Malach Asharis. Over here, he has no proof. He just says it. There's no logical even reason to just says it as a statement without really backing it up in any way. Just tell me, had the neshama been lower level, then what? Then it wouldn't be able. Like why? Who said? Maybe it could be able to. I don't know. Am I missing something?
So I think he just adds to what he just proved, that the neshama was so mighty and powerful, and if it weren't, then it wouldn't know all these things.
Okay. I mean, I read it a little different, but it still doesn't help me so much. The way that how do they translate again these lines by you?
On the other hand, if the soul's intrinsic existence were lowly rather than highly exalted, we would not be able to attain all the majesty and grandeur that will be granted in the future world.
Oh, so that's how I read it, correct?
Yeah.
That's not how intentionally. That's not how he translates over here. Listen to this translation. He says, however, on the other hand, if the soul in its essence were lowly and not great, it could not sustain the intensity of the greatness and sublimity that awaits it in time to come. exceeding that of the ministering angels.
The soul would not be able to.
That's how he translates it. That's right. Very different.
Yeah.
Correct. So I mean, these could be translated both ways, because the word, so le'amoid, that's the Hebrew word is right. It would not be able to stand with such yoker gdula, with such loftiness and greatness. So stand meaning it wouldn't be able to achieve, or stand it would not be able to withstand. Those are the two approaches. So if it's this version has a little bit more of a, what's the word? How should I say? A logical full pattern. That he's saying that if the soul it would not have a higher level, then when it would be
in the presence
given that higher level, it wouldn't be able to sustain it. Right? Okay, so that, again, yes or no, I still need proof for that, but let's say I could then understand the logic why the soul could not have been on a lower level. If the way your version translates it is that the soul for some reason would not be able to reach a higher level just because it started on a lower level, I mean, why not? Maybe again, there's no logical sequence. Right? Yes? No?
Yeah. If the soul were not made as a kli able to hold that much kedusha, and it would not. It just won't work.
Yeah, I don't know why not. Why? Meaning we're talking about that if the soul would be lower level to begin with, so assuming that he doesn't say, I would have said, again, the simple logic would be, if the soul is too great, the Bechira is gone. If the soul is too lowly, what should follow? Then it should not be able, it's not going to be able to accomplish the body, the perfection of the body. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying if the soul is too low, high, it overpowers the body. But if it's too lowly, then in the future,
it just wouldn't.
But what happened? It's not A, B, C, D. It doesn't follow the logic, right? Don't talk about the future. Talk about the present. The present. If the soul is too high, it overpowers the present. If it's too lowly, then it can't accomplish the present. But that's not what he's saying. He's saying that then in the future, it won't be able to reach a higher madrega. It just doesn't, something is missing here. So, I don't know. This malachim, he keeps, just like, it's interesting that the malachim play a role here. That if the soul is too high, it will be like malachim to begin with. Right. If the soul is too low, it can't be above malachim. Like, it's weird. Something we're sort of missing the boat here. That's the point. I feel like everything in this paragraph we're just missing the boat. Okay, we'll come back. Maybe this next paragraph will help us actually understand the previous paragraph. Okay.
So what's what's his bottom line? That is the neshama is.
Well, he's gonna say the bottom line now, I think.
Okay.
So what the matter is, that the neshama in its essence and its in root is really, really great. But in order that it enter this body, Hakadosh Baruch Hu diminishes the light and the power. Right? So the way Hashem resolves this conundrum of that it can't be too great and it can't be too low is that he makes it very, very great, but then kind of constricts it. Right? Constricts it to go into the body. Okay? And leaves it only that measure that is just necessary for the body in this world. V'hine hi be'oiso sho ki yareach zois shenemar lo lechi u'me'ati latzmech. So it compares the neshama to the moon, which was told to go and diminish itself. Right? So it's light. Again, going to light. It's no longer like the light of the sun. It's the light of the moon. It's reflective. It's not its full burning power. But in the future, again, I don't know which future is he talking about. In the future, it says that the moon will be like the light of the sun. Okay, good. Okay, again, I don't know which future he's talking about. That the moon will be like the sun. Is he talking about Olam Haba? He's talking about Yimais Mashiach. I don't know. Okay, but v'hine biyoda toiva, but lehis alois mi ilui ad tokfa elyon, and now it has the capacity to go up and up until it's full kind of high level. Lefish shleimus maaseha, in accordance to the perfection of her deeds. Okay, in other words, he seems to be introducing a new idea that as a result of this Yerida, right, and we saw this really in Derech Hashem, and as a result of this Yerida and this limitation of the soul, once it's released, it's actually able to reach even a higher Madrega than it was originally present. Again, so this might come back to this idea of Yoser Malachi Asharis. That in a certain sense, maybe when the Neshama starts out, again, I'm not sure, because Kisei HaKovod is really already supposed to be higher than Malachi Asharis, but maybe you could have said that when it starts out on the level of Malachi Asharis. And then it's lowered down to the level of lower than Malachi Asharis, so it could enter the body. Then when it's released, right, through its perfecting of the body, right, and is able to express itself fully, so then it kind of is able to reach even a higher level than Malachi Asharis. Right? So going back to what we were missing before, maybe that's really the solution. Maybe he just couldn't speak it out at that point. But the idea is he was kind of hinting to this methodology of it being so high to begin with that it's constricted, and as a result of a constriction, like Boemer, yes, with the Shum Bar Yochai and the arrow, correct, right? When the what's the word? Right, the tension then releases a greater capacity, right? Very good. Okay. In accordance to the limited power that it has in this world, he oimedes seigeres, it stands closed. The misegeres b'soich haguf ha'okor hazeh kol yimei tzavah. Right, it's basically suffering in this enclosure, its entire life. Lihisnasos, to be tested, and to be proved. B'nisyonos Yetzer Hara, with all the different tests of the Yetzer Hara shalkeinusam ba'odam that is placed in the person. Kamamarim Zal, and as the Medrash says, Lo bora Kodesh Baruch Hu Yetzer Hara elu lenasos boy b'nei ha'adam. Right, Kodesh Baruch Hu created the Yetzer Hara, but rather to test the people. Again, the way he's reading that, what does that mean to test the people? What's a person? A person is this, this creation of this, this lofty neshama, constricted neshama in this very, very coarse body. And according to her, the kishroin, right, the improvements, I would say, of her actions. So then it merits for itself a greater ilui, greater elevation, to go up from one level to another level. Then at the time of the reward, so then the souls kind of like what's the word? It's a poetic expression, but it means that they achieve what they accomplish. They glean their accomplishments. And they then are elevated to the greater degree through their actions. And then through that newly attained level, right? This is the light that he's talking about when they go to the Olam Neshamas and are able to achieve this higher light, then when they come back, then they can even more greatly purify the body at the time of resurrection. And then they bask in this light forever and ever. As we explained above. Good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, comes out from all of this. It has to have this incredible great root, right? Mitzad atzmo, in its essence. And the source has to be very high, right? So that it should be roy, it should be worthy of all of this grandeur that will receive the love. Again, that comes back to that point that he said before, right? That it couldn't have a lower level. In order to be zoicha to that future level, it has to start off on a very high level. Aval mashpili myso, it's lowered, leagbia oiso, so that it will be later raised above, ulehaitiva be'achirisa, and it should be benefited in its end. Right in the end. Besum aleha ha'odem baruchu es chukoi leimor, so that the Hashem placed upon her this kind of decree, lechi ume'anti as it's mech, go and diminish yourself. Likonis beguf ha'okar as go and enter this ugly, right, lowly body. Liyos boy kol yemei chaye hevlo, remain there the entire life of this body. V'som som lachok u'mishpat, over there she gets, the law and the law. Kol ha'torah azois, and receives this entire Torah le'avda u'le'shamra, to serve and to protect. Eila advarim hashayachim lo beyosu beguf hazeh. These are the things that are shayach to the neshama when that's in the body. But now that the neshama, became weak, right, and the light got diminished, harab muta hazeh, as a result of this limitation, nishar aguf okar. So then the body also remains okar, remains this coarse. Who hayom hazeh, as we see today, right? So therefore, again, I'm going to come back to this in a second because I'm not sure if I understand the math yet, but the reason why the neshama is not able to perfect the body right now in this world is because we only receive, the neshama that we receive is only, a small, kind of a small version of its full self. Right? Even though the neshama is here in our body, it's limited. We don't get the full neshama. Right? We don't get the full neshama. And maybe, again, obviously it hints to the possibility that maybe, or at least for some very special individuals, or maybe at some times, Shabbos, Yom Tov, that maybe some of this limitation that was placed onto the body maybe can be undone a little bit. It's not that this access is not there completely. There's some kind of a blockage, but then again, maybe there is for some backdoor or whatever it is, some bug or feature that allows us to break through this. But again, what bothers me here now is that he kind of told us in the beginning of this section, as we started today, that this was a result of the sin, right? So again, I don't know if we have to get into this, but right. So he has to explain, because what he's saying now seems to be should have been true even to Adam Rishon before the sin, right? Because Adam Rishon before the sin also had to have some sort of a bechira. So this is true to some degree before the sin. So again, so you have to just work out mathematics of what was before the sin, what happened after the sin, right? Because seemingly even before the sin, the neshama did not have the ability to fully express itself, or maybe it did. I don't know exactly how to work out that mathematics. But I mean, clearly, right? I should say the math that he's describing should have been applicable to the status of Adam before the sin, but he clearly is speaking about today, not 5,000, 8, 700 years ago. He's talking about
right now.
Today. Fine. So let's keep going. So then in the future, once it did whatever it did, all of the righteousness of its deeds, it's going to be judged in the future. When it goes up in these levels. When it then returns second time into the body in the new light, then it will be able to do what it cannot accomplish now. That is, that will purify the body in its complete purification. And to return the body into its honorable and illuminated state. The kedei levoy beguf that what in the beginning that in the beginning in order to get into the body it needed to minimize her light. When it comes second time, just the opposite, it comes back with all of her light, that the purification is complete. Good. Okay? So now he comes back to answer that original question. What was the neshama's benefit, right? What was the neshama? We said the benefit for the body, but what was the neshama's benefit? Now it's clear. Now we understand that there is benefit to the neshama itself as it perfects the body. Because now it's able to reach even a higher level than before. And it adds power to her original power, the yoker al yoker, and her loftiness to loftiness. And not only this, but not only later, but even now, when it's in this world, inside the body, okay, it still has an elevation, an addition, profit. It has some profit according to her actions. Because you cannot compare the soul of a person who is involved in the Torah and in the mitzvahs and was able to reach a certain level of knowing the honor of Hashem, to neshama that's missing all of these things. Okay? So he's saying that even in this world, you could recognize differences between, Gdolim and Tzaddikim, who have been able to, live their life in righteousness and were involved in the Torah and did reach levels of enlightenment that others did not reach, so you could tell the difference. Not like all of these differences are only visible in the future when the neshama returns. No, there is call it Ruach HaKodesh, call it whatever you want, but there are hints. They say, if I win the lottery, I won't tell you, but there will be signs, right? So there are some tzaddikim, they won the lottery, you can't tell, but there are signs. But again, this loftiness doesn't reach to the level where it could really change the body. That purification should be visible to our physical eyes. But except in few exceptional cases, in these unique individuals that Hashem chose, right? These individuals, like we say, that their actual flesh became transformed. But regarding all of us, even though there is profit, right, that is achieved from the righteous actions, that it won't be visible in the body. But of course, the good will not be prevented, will not be held back in the future. Every person according to his actions. Okay, so that's the end of that section. So again, let's just read through this summary. Okay, Omer Neshama, Kabetz Haklal Mikol Ma Shamarta. So why don't you summarize everything that you said? So let's read the summary and then we'll stop here. So Omer HaSeichel, Zeh Haklal, this is the summary. Haguf, the body, Briyosa Chashucho, its creation is dark. Ubailas Chasornos, and full of shortcomings. V'yesh zikuch al yidei neshama, and it accomplishes purification through neshama. Haneshama, with neshama on the other hand, mekoyer godel, its source is very great. Aval mima'etes atzma, but it diminishes herself, bevoya beguf, when it enters the body. Okay, so that's an interesting element that I didn't pick up on before. It doesn't say that God diminished the soul. It says, go diminish yourself. Right? So it's also almost seems like that's part of the mission, meaning the mission begins when the soul diminishes herself as part of the mission of elevating the body. So, right? So go diminish yourself. And this is for the reason that it should not, accomplish this purification in one instance. And it does not have the ability to change its what's the word? The way it's created. But little by little, little by little accomplishes what needs to be accomplished with good deeds. And then afterwards, then it will be elevated to great elevations according to her deeds. And the power will be increased in according to the level of it that it rises. And then it will increase the purification of the body according to the greatness of her strength. Until the body is able to stand together with neshama in the temple of Hashem, to see the sweetness of Hashem, and to be in His palace, forever and ever. Right. So again, just one other point here. What comes out is that being that the zikuch, meaning the zikuch, the purification of the body, is not going to be the same for every person. Right. Because since the neshama, every person's neshama will reach different heights based on their accomplishments in this world, and then the higher the light, then the greater the purification that is able to achieve, right? Because that's what it says here. It says v'tir be'hazikuch beguf, and the purification of the body will increase lefi goydel koicha, in accordance proportional to the power of the neshama. Right, so then it comes to be, then when we get to Olam Haba, we'll be able to see, so to speak, everybody's level of purification. Again, everybody will be purified to the point that the body will be able to withstand eternal bliss, but nonetheless, there will still be levels, right? Levels in the neshama and levels in the body. Some bodies will be gorgeous and beautiful and fully, what's the word? And some bodies will be not so. Right? In other words, just like in this world, we see that Hashem creates certain people, and some people are more beautiful than others. So too in the next world, when neshama enters the body, some people will be, supermodels, and some people will be not so much. Okay, all right.